times fear and anxiety, or a lot of times fear and anxiety, is for good reason. Like I'm afraid of relationships because a lot of things can actually go wrong. It's not made up, right? So this person, I was saying that I recorded a 2 hours plus conversation with someone just before we started here, and the audio jack wasn't plugged into the camera, so I have really, really bad audio, and I might have to scratch it. This is the third time that I have a technical error, and I consider myself tech savvy. Like I know every wire where it needs to go, so I know how it needs to work. How difficult is it to remember? Well, it happens. So when I'm anxious about something beforehand, it's for good reason. My body is telling me, be careful, plug it in, make sure it's good, make sure it's this, make sure it's that. And there's another voice that even tells me, don't do it because you're going to get it wrong, right? It's like, don't get into the relationship, you're going to get your heart broken. Guess what? 99 out of whatever times my heart is going to get broken. Don't try this business, you're going to fail. Well, anyone successful will tell you that 9 out of 10 ventures will fail, or 8 out of 10 or whatever, until they get really, really good at it. They develop an intuition, they develop methods that they start actually getting better at what they do. And then the anxiety also comes down and it gets easier. But let's talk about the initial anxiety response, where the body says, before it even has words, or without even noticing, the body says, no, don't. Right? No, don't do it. No, don't do it. And if I want to do it, I'm just procrastinating. That's one response to anxiety. Right? I just start spinning. Yes, no. How should I do it? What's the best way to do it? Everyone has their own mahalach of what's the best procrastination method. You know, that's one thing that can happen. The other thing that can happen is a fear response, which a lot of the breathwork, either practitioners in here or people that have experienced breathwork know that a fear response is a bodily somatic response to something I want to do. Again, because the body is actually looking out. It wants me to be careful. It wants me to do a good job of what I'm doing. It wants me to not hurt. It wants me to be okay. It wants me to not... And obviously, a lot of the fears could be exaggerated. Like, okay, so I didn't record and my button didn't go right. Is it really a danger? Is it worth being anxious? Not necessarily, but there is a part in anxiety that is valid. So the first thing that a lot of people know about anxiety today is that it needs validation. Why? Because if it doesn't get validation, it's going to keep negging. You know, there's a method called parts work. And in parts work, what we know is that every voice has a value, right? Every voice inside our head, even if it's negative and holding us back and keeping us small, it's a part that's trying to protect us, regardless if it's currently, helpful or not. So when we talk about anxiety, the first thing that's really important to know is to actually validate and understand that it's here because it wants the best for me. It wants the best for us. It wants the best within us. This is a direct conversation about exposing myself to cold, which is the first response that people have to cold water is like, no. Why? Because it's not okay to do that. Why is it not okay to get into cold before even knowing the benefits, or even if I know the benefits? Because it's uncomfortable. And what if it's uncomfortable? Something bad can happen, like hypothermia can happen, right? It's a real thing. It's not made up. And so the first thing with trying any venture or any endeavor or anything new is what I'm learning and knowing is to just validate whatever initial first response my body has. I want to start like in the order of things, of the order of I think could be helpful. So everything I know about cold exposure as a method to help me be stronger physically and mentally and emotionally. Everything I know about cold exposure, I learned for free or for very, very, very inexpensive. And there are trainings for thousands of dollars. I have been practicing cold exposure personally and with other people for, it's going to be close to 2 years. And I learned all of it for free. And it's been extremely helpful to me. I am super anxious. I get like these responses to things, fear responses to things. Even hosting this event, I wouldn't do 2 years ago. No matter if I would put myself on any amount of meds, I would still be so afraid. I would either numb the desire or still be anxious. Like nothing would help me get over it. A big tribute to what I've been doing publicly the last 2 years, which is what I very, very much want to do, connect with people in the things and the ways that interest me and that bring light to me and to others, is I don't think I would do any of it without the ability to manage my anxiety. Managing not in a way that it needs to go away, but managing is in a way of knowing how to live with it. How do I live with fear responses to things? So there are plenty of people that don't have anxiety, Yeah, there are plenty of people that don't venture onto new things, right? There are plenty of people that don't have anxiety and venture to new things. There are plenty of people who use cold exposure for physical benefits, which I'm not going to talk about. I'm going to give you some resources that you can go and do a lot of data, like the places where I've learned. One of the places that I've learned, I'm going to share like a couple of resources later, and if I forget, please remind me, where you can find an enormous amount of benefits of exposing yourself to cold. I'm less sick than I used to be when I was younger, and even in my adult life, I've been getting strep a bunch of times a winter. As a child, I was sick all the time with strep and with all these, today, rarely sick. It's been really, really good for autoimmune disease, which again, I'm going to send you resources and you can find all that on your own. But my conversation today is about anxiety, and anxiety can be in any kind of way. It can formulate through procrastination. It can formulate through avoidance, right? Out for lunch, I'm not dealing with this. It can formulate through a very bodily response of heart racing and heart beating, an enormous amount of physical discomfort. And whichever way anxiety shows up, it will put the brakes on things, which is I have a mentor that says there are two ways to approach life. Yeah. One is to do things out of love, and the other one is to do out of fear. Right? Anxiety is a fear response to life, which is to say that, yes, anxiety has truth to it, right? My head goes now, I'm going to mess up the wiring again. It's going to get disconnected. The internet is going to stop working. It's going to... Yes, there's truth to it. The anxiety wants me to do the best I could. It wants me to set this up the best way I could, right? It wants me to do a good job. The question is it a loving way of getting myself to do a good job? So managing anxiety is like, how can I filter and manage? How can I listen to the voice that it says and do a good job at the same time? So it's like, I don't want to necessarily take away every voice that it has. I don't want to be oblivious. I don't want to be narcissistic. I don't want to be a prick. I want to be nice. I want to be thoughtful. I want to be careful for myself and for others, but I want to learn how to do it from love. So interestingly enough, brutally exposing myself to cold somehow taught me how to love myself, which is interesting because the world is a world of opposites. So this is just ironically working, and it's been working for a while now. I do have on and offs. Yeah, I'm not always like, when I go on vacation, I sometimes stop. I don't want to build my endurance. I want to be lazy a little, so I'm going to stop. Exposing myself to cold water is literally the opposite of the word lazy. The feeling in my body, the mindset that I get is the opposite of lazy. So sometimes I'll want to be lazy. Sometimes I'm sick and it's not good, even though they say that some people say that they expose themselves to severe colds and when it's cold, and for me, that isn't good. Like this winter specifically, I was sick twice, and I just didn't take cold showers. So I started again, which had a joy in it and a fun in it to start all over again. But for the most of it, when I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling blue, and I know I have an 11 o'clock, and I don't want to show up like sour faced, I know that I can start my morning, and in an hour I'm going to take a cold shower, a 5-minute one, and I know that after the cold shower I will feel okay. I know that my anxiety will be lower. I know my flow state, which means creativity, connecting to people, thinking less about myself negatively, it just leaves. And I know that by now because I've practiced it long enough. A couple of years ago, I transitioned. I think the therapists that watch this know there's an actual term, transition disorder or something. I'm not familiar, but I transitioned a lot, and a lot of parts of my transition didn't, like in business and in finances and in ventures and in putting myself in certain places and out. There was a lot of change happening at once. And a lot of parts of the goals that I had didn't work the way I planned. And it hit me really, really, really hard. And I was literally, for those who know, I was literally out for lunch for half a year. I would cry for hours. I would lay on the floor and shake. Like I've had an enormous amount of support and family help, and later really, really good professionals that helped me get through it. And when I went back to being, and that wasn't me before that, I was always like overconfident or thinking that my opinions are very valuable, and that got me through. And I always had a plan, and always a plan B, and always a plan C, and always like I'll be nice enough and strong enough and committed enough, and I'm somehow going to figure things out. And when it didn't work, I crashed emotionally, and I had a very bodily, anxious response to life, and I wasn't able to get up and look at things. I wasn't able to do the reports, to make the cheshbonis, to make the phone calls, to try again, to have the conversation, to fire this, to fire that, to hire this. I was just simply afraid. I was afraid I wasn't rational anymore. Which is to say that at some point in the fear response to life, there is ration, right? Yeah, I need to plug in the wire so it works, right? That's rational. But then at some point, it becomes irrational. That's the issue with doing things from fear, because the fear starts building its own story, right? So there is the computers that's outside of me that I need to plug in and get to work, right? My body helps me do that right by scaring me off. And then once my brain notices, oh, my body is shaking, something must be really bad, right? So a fast heart rate, my body doesn't know if I'm getting a heart attack or I simply need to plug in an earphone jack that I forgot. My body doesn't know the difference, so it starts feeding, and then anxiety loops happen. So I've been in that place, and I've been in that place for quite a while. And what really, really helped me get out of it in a very sustainable way, in a very manageable way, is cold exposure. So my first connection to the cold, like to expose myself to cold, was through breath work. I didn't think I'm ever going to get into a cold shower. I like the good things in life. I like comfort. I dislike discomfort. I very much appreciate and enjoy warm showers and a good coat when it's cold, and a nice hotel room versus sleeping outside. Like camping could be fun, but if it's cold, I don't like it. And if it's this, I don't like it. And I'm not the type to, to expose myself to the cold. So my first relationship with Wim Hof was for breath work. It was not for cold at all. And the Wim Hof method, which is the method I use for cold exposure, is divided into 3 things. So this is where you can start taking notes if you want. And I'm also going to send you resources so you can study this in length on your own. I'm really pushing this into 1 hour. So probably dozens and dozens of hours of reading and listening and stuff. I'm going to try and condense it to 1 hour, which is another like 45 minutes. So the first part of Wim Hof's teaching is mind. The second part to cold exposure is breath. And the third part is cold. In Chabad teaching, we know that there is machshava, which is thoughts. There's dibber. And then there's maisa, which is action. The world of thought is my opinion on things, which influence my feelings, which influence my actions. The world of dibber is my words, right? How do I integrate? How do I limit a thought, which could be perfect or horrible? It could be very extreme. It's not grounded in reality. It's just a thought. It takes a millisecond to think something, right? In 1 second, we can have an endless amounts of thoughts. So how do I take a thought and I bring it into action is the words, which is mouth, which is dibber. And the third part is action. That's when I start building, creating, manifesting, growing. So cold exposure is really 3 parts to how we live, how we create. And all 3 are equally as necessary. And without the other one doesn't work. So I can have a positive thought. I can say I'm capable, I'm able, I'm strong. And then I can have another thought, right? The other thought can be I'm not, I'm going to fail. It's not going to work out, right? And then I have plenty of proof that it's not going to work out and I'm not okay. And then I can have plenty of evidence that it is going to be okay, right? There's plenty of content today that's publicly available, from TED Talks to books and self-help. And there's an enormous amount of information to prove that it's going to work out if I keep trying. That's thought. The world of thought is perfect. Each thought can be perfect in its own way. The next realm, what I can do with a thought, is put it into words. Which means that, yes, I can think I'm okay. But then when I say and I tell someone I'm okay, I give validity by the action, by the way of speaking and the way of being and the way I relate to people, the way I don't speak, either way, right? I give validity to, it's almost like I choose my thoughts based on my words, right? But then that's words, right? I can say a lot of words, right? which is the third realm, which is action, which means as soon as I put it into masse, as soon as I take a thought, which I formulated into words, and I put it into action, it really starts grounding and rooting into this world. And very often, when I put something into action, it's different than I planned, right? So I have to start changing my words, changing my thoughts, altering my plan, and do the cycle again. So the Wim Hof method is a little different than Machshava Deber Maaseh, but for me, it's very relatable. And his way of dividing cold exposure is, one is mindset, right? You choose a mindset. Yes, there is an opposite mindset. Yes, I can think different. Yes, there's validity for whatever mindset I am, but first I choose a mindset. No matter where my mind goes, I bring it back to the one mindset I chose. And for today's practice, the mindset I'm going to choose is I'm okay. Like as an intro to cold exposure, the first thought I want to choose and think is I'm okay. The next thought I can think is I'm strong. The next thought after that I want to choose and think is I'm powerful. The next thought I want to think is I'm capable, right? But the first thought that like what brought me into the cold, what got me through, I guess, my first ice bath was I'm okay. And I'm okay, I don't mean just like outside of me, I mean very literally and physically, that when my body gets exposed to cold, if I show up for myself and I do the tools and the methods that exist out there to regulate my body's actually okay. The same temperature can cause hypothermia, and I know that I am okay. Why am I okay? For starters, because I'm thinking I'm okay. Because my body responds physically to my thoughts. Right? So I'm thinking I'm not okay. Most likely I'm going to shake and I'm going to have shallow breaths, and my body's actually, the veins close off and I start feeling cold through my skin and I feel it in my hand, and then later hypothermia can kick in. But the first part of warming up my body starts with a thought, I'm okay. I can actually warm up my body. My body is okay. The second part to exposing myself to cold and is breath. So that's how I got to Wim Hof. My relationship to Wim Hof wasn't from cold exposure, was from breath. Breath is, I mean, there's so many breathwork techniques and there's so many healers and amazing facilitators. So I'm just talking about Wim Hof breath, is to bring breath throughout my body, which are going to sort of allow my blood to flow and not tighten up, expand my veins, expand my chest, expand my belly, expand my body. And that is my first way of integrating the choice of thought, I am okay, into my body. So I'm not okay. We're talking about cold exposure, not about bills, which is the nimshal, and each one of you can apply it to whichever area, I guess, of struggle in your life. But in this example, when I put my hand under real cold water, when I tell myself I'm not okay, I'm going to faint, and I still have that thought, I get into cold after now practicing for a while, or when it's really, really cold outside, I'm like, oh my God, this is not good, right? So when I think this is not good, my body responds to those words. And what my body does is I breathe shallow. I hold my breath even, right? And as a result of that, my blood flows differently and my veins contract, specifically in the hands. When I choose the thought, I'm okay, in this example, my body is okay, and then I match it with a breath. And the breath I match it with is all the way in and letting it go. All the way in and letting it go. A very physical grounding breath. I'm starting to integrate. I'm starting to tell my body that it is actually okay. Right? I can say, I'm good enough. No, I'm not good enough. I'm okay. No, I'm not okay. It's an argument in my head. It has no mamushas. It has no strength. It has no power over this world until I start bringing into action. So the first bridge between the thoughts and action is my words in the example I gave before. And in this case, it's breath. Right? So breathing in and out is the way that I regulate my body. Breath is the key component between I'm not okay and I am okay. The way my body knows physically, the way I go in, get on a Zoom and my heart relaxes has all to do with the thought that I choose. And then I bring it into my body with the breath that I match it with. And the breath method that we're using is Wim Hof breaths, which is all the way in to the belly and let it go. You can try it. And it's not about processing emotions. So breaths of childlike is allowing myself to relax into feeling my feelings. This breathwork method is to actually choose a thought and start bringing into my body so it starts actually sticking, so it lands, right? And when it starts landing in my body, I can actually be more okay. More okay, which means I can work with my feelings. So let's take the example that I said before, right? So a fear or an anxiety or a resistance, a procrastination is my body actually telling me, something can go wrong. So in this case, what does my brain say when it's telling me it's cold? It's not okay. It wants me to be safe, right? It wants me to protect myself. It wants me to not, die, like very literally. So if I choose I am okay, I'm not saying no to the fear. I'm not fighting with the fear. I'm fully surrendering. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I want to be okay. And I am going to be okay. And how do I do it? By breathing. I know that actually expands my veins and my blood flow is flowing differently. And when my blood flow flows differently, my veins are expanded. I'm okay. So one feeds the other, right? It's either the thought is going to influence my actions or the actions are going to influence my thought, but I put awareness to it, right? I bring awareness to the experience because on its own, my automatic brain responses cave. Go away. Don't invest. Don't try again. Don't reach out again. Don't have that conversation. No good, no good, no good, no good, right? That's an automatic response to a circumstance. But when I train my brain matched with my body, not only a thought, I actually train my brain how to think based on data that I know, which again, I'm going to share later. You can do your homework on data. And then not only do I know, a part of my brain knows I'm okay, my body can handle cold. Like if he can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it, which I've done a lot. I've watched tons of videos of people doing it. So I was convinced that if they can do it, I can do it, and it actually works. It's not enough because it's just one thought. And as soon as the reality hits where it's freezing or it's cold, my brain goes back to like, oh, it's not okay. But when I match it to breath and I bring to my body the physical sensation from okayness, and then I actually try it out, something changes. And what changes is I start knowing from experience, not from Motty telling you, and not from a video, and not from Wim Hof, which is why I started this thing saying that everything I know is free and available. How do I know what I know? Because I've done it. I've done it for almost 2 years. So then something changes in the head. Something changes. There's a mindset shift, which every feeling, every kind of procrastination, stuckness is a mindset, right? We know that there is something happens in life. Then there's a thought, right? There's a thought. I think about something that happened in life. I think that, I'm not going to get out of this. It's going to be amazing. Whatever happens in life, I have a thought about it. And then we know that I can personalize that thought. I can tell things about me. If that happens, I am okay, or I'm not okay, or I'm cool, or I'm not cool, or I'm wanted, or I'm not wanted, whatever it is that I start believing about myself and the world. And as a result of those beliefs, I have a feeling. I have an emotion. I also have a sensation. And as a result of my sensation and emotion, I make my next step in life and I choose. So a lot of procrastination is thoughts that result into feelings, sensations in the body of closeness, of literally the shallow breathing, right? Throat breathing. So what was amazing for me for probably a half a year that I learned Wim Hof was that I can simply think I'm okay. And then when I practice breathing consciously into my body and expanding my physical body, right? Expanding my breath, expanding my belly, expanding my veins, my blood flow, I can actually integrate it into my body so my hands don't shake if I want to do something. So I can actually look at something and not collapse from fear and anxiety. So that was my first exposure to cold, and it was really helpful. And at some point, which is the third part of the Wim Hof method, is the actual getting into cold. And that wasn't enough. It was like nice that I can stay optimistic through breath. And it was nice that it helped me. I wanted more. And part of what I wanted more, which is not my sales pitch, part of what I wanted more was simply the adrenaline. It seemed very, very exciting and almost like a high to get into the cold. I love the pictures. It looks really, really cool to lay there completely covered in ice. When I watched Wim Hof's videos, he always seemed happy. I watched a documentary about him or an interview where he shared his depression and how he saw a lake and water and he simply went in, and that's when he discovered that it changed his emotional state, and I wanted that. It was exciting for me. So part of what helped me get through my first ice bath, which if you message me, I'll share with you the video, was completely excited and high, like any endurance, experience, which isn't enough, which isn't a good enough reason to do it. For some people it is, so they get the picture, but that's not what I'm here to share. What I'm here to share is getting into cold when there is no endurance, when there is no excitement, when there is no, oh my God, it's going to look so great. Dr. Huberman, who, if you want any data on anything, his stuff is amazing. His podcasts and videos. I'm going to share with you a link about cold exposure from Dr. Huberman. There's also a phenomenal podcast about meditation from Dr. Huberman. So he explains how thinking about a reward increases dopamine. Dopamine is a happy chemical, so brain chemical. So as soon as I think this ice bath is going to be so cool, the picture is so cool, and I get myself excited, I have already enough dopamine to get into it. Which is what happened for me when I started, which is why a lot of people I know, they see the pictures, they see the excitement, but two things. Either they're not dopamine junkies, they don't care for dopamine that much, so it's not a good enough reason to put themselves through the pain or what they think will be painful, or the fear is greater, right? They're so afraid of the burn, of the pain, that yes, I get this much dopamine from thinking I'm going to do this, but then I get way more fear. So I got into it at first from a dopamine rush, which was higher than the fear. But in the teachings of Wim Hof and in what I've learned later is that it's not a sustainable feeling. Any kind of growth that comes through dopamine, right? If it's cigarettes or vaping or whatever drug, it's not sustainable. It's a temporary high, which will help me 5 steps further, but it's not going to create the balance that I'm really looking for in my life. It's not going to create the ability for me to show up regularly, even when the dopamine isn't that high. So the thought, my body's, I'm okay. The breath, I'm bringing the breath into my body, I'm okay. Right? The action is getting into cold, so I know my body is fine, right? So that's the third part. And my real, I guess, wellness through cold exposure came a year later, where I didn't have any more the dopamine rush. And I really learned to just go in and practice real surrender, which is to understand that my body is really cold and to wait out that initial shock that the body gets. And then the body gets extremely relaxed and very, very focused. At that point, the real growth and the real grounding feeling of okayness and calmness and stillness in my body happened. Dafka not from the initial dopamine rush. So to sum up, and then I'll open up for some questions. There's one more thing. There are a lot of people on this group. I mean, we have here 15 people or 10 people and more than 50 subscribed, which I guess they want to see the video. A lot of you people that watch this are, I've read I asked for people to write why they joined. And there are a lot of people here that have been doing cold shower and cold exposure and are, so I would open up for questions. And if anyone wants to share this first part of their journey or what it did for them, afterwards, I'm going to give some step-by-step instructions of how to get started and how to get into it. So you can unmute yourself. And if you have any questions, please.
Hello.
Hey, brother.
Hey, brother. I have a question.
No.
Is there any? I've seen cold exposure, ads or I came across it on the internet. And is there any worry in terms of health? Is there can you get a cold? Can you get a sore throat?
So whenever it's done with the Wim Hof method, which is mindset, breath, and then cold, and no. Just absolutely not. I haven't. And to be clear, I'm not trained and certified in this. I don't know what that, I don't know what other certification there is other than 2 years of doing it. But I have been very cold. I'm not cold sick, I would get colds and sick. I think you know this. It's maybe a family thing, but I haven't since I'm doing cold. It's literally verkeerd.
And hold on. And if you are feeling under the weather, is it not?
So for me, so it's been suggested by others, and for me that if I'm actually sick, my body doesn't have what it takes to be okay in the cold, and then it's going to hit. Because it takes endurance. One of the chemicals and one of the parts that the body rides on or uses, the fuel that it uses is an endurance boost and a strength boost. And when the body is sick, it's also emotionally sick. And if I'm emotionally sick, I don't have that endurance to become okay. So I'll fight off colds in the beginning, but as soon as it didn't work, I'm waiting it out. Right? Because physical sick it's common that in a physical sick, the body emotionally gets weak. Like sometimes people are emotionally off and then they find out, I have strep, I have this, I have that. One feeds the other, right? Emotional sick will create a weakness in the body, and then a weakness in the body will create emotional weakness. And it's all brain chemicals. It's not mystics, right? It's like the adrenal glands, and it's all these different parts of the body that that's not my expertise at all. I can talk about the emotional side of things, but all these chemicals in the body, they're simply weak when we're sick. So I've watched some videos of people that just do cold stuff in the freezing and when they're sick, and it's not my thing. Like, I just don't have it in me. Like that I'm okay. My body is not in agreement that I'm okay. I can tell myself I'm okay, and I can go, my breath is not the same. I don't breathe the same when I'm sick and when I'm not sick, right? That makes sense?
I'll share with you one more thing. I was just on vacation, as you know, I told you, and I didn't share this with you. It's funny. Probably would have, but there was a pool in the resort that I was staying in, and it was pretty warm, right? I was in 75 degree weather, and the pool was ice cold. I don't know why these resorts decide that because we're in the Caribbean or a tropical destination.
They convince themselves.
Right? We're letting nature eat it.
Yeah, they convince themselves.
Yeah. I mean, they probably save a lot of money doing it, but I it was freezing cold, and I was determined after like 3 days. I was there for 4 days. After the third day, I'm like, I'm not going on vacation in the Caribbean, and I'm not in a pool. Like, I have to go in. So I just went for it, and I was thinking of you. I was thinking of the ice baths. I was thinking of cold exposure, and I was like, I could do this. It's not a big deal. It's not an ice bath. It's still a pool, and there's still sun. But it was freezing, and it was worth it. It was very nice.
But was it cold after 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 2 minutes?
Oh, I didn't last 10 minutes. All right. Anyway, good.
Well, you could have just called me and I would walk you through it. I'm pretty sure after a minute you wouldn't be cold. I would never, ever go into a cold pool, ever. Today I'm excited because after a minute I'm not cold. Like, I'm actually not cold. So, yeah. You can call me next time you go to a resort and they give you a cold pool. Thank you.
People ask questions.
Anyone has any questions or shares? Share with me your struggle with cold. Share with me your what it didn't work for you with cold.
So I just wanted to share that I haven't taken any ice baths recently, but when I used to take them, I never got any colds those times.
Wow. That's cool. Okay, anyone has any question about a specific struggle they had it when they tried or looked into it? Like, what happened to you when you're here, so you're interested?
So I have a question about starting a shower as a hot shower, but then when I'm done washing myself, rinsing myself, then transitioning to a cold shower, will it still have similar effect?
Yes, it's what I'm going to share around. I'm going to share like a step-by-step for showers, and I'm going to share a step-by-step for ice bath. One of the big differences between a cold shower and an ice bath and a cold bath is that here, there's a pro and con in either that I found. When I do a cold shower, it doesn't settle because it's poking and it's not the same, it's just poking. So it bothers the whole time, but I can control it very, very well. So that's a wonderful opportunity to slowly get your body used to this so it doesn't get a shock. So when it feels that cold, your brain doesn't go, oh, get me out of here, I'm going to die, right? So you move the water slowly, and I'm going to share in a minute how. That's the benefit. The downside is someone shared with me that they're doing cold showers for 14 minutes, and I so admire that because I do a couple of minutes and it's so cold. It doesn't get it gets a little less cold some days, but when it's like 20, 30 degrees outside, the water is really cold and it doesn't settle. Masha Einkein full immersion, which is what ice bath is, the initial shock is really, really hard. But then once the body is trained, it gets fully used to 30 degrees water because it doesn't move. One of the ways to make an ice bath more challenging in order to increase the dopamine for the junkies here is to shake the water. Shaking the water will make it again unsettling, and then I have to fight it more. Listen, the simple science to feeling to dopamine is pain. Like I feel pain, I get over it, and then my dopamine level is higher. There isn't much more to that little part of the body. Like I put myself through pain in a way that I can get through it. My body is happy after. It's very simple. There's a story, self-help joke. It goes, Johnny knocked himself in the head with a hammer. So the dad said, Johnny, why are you knocking yourself in the head with a hammer? So Johnny said, because it feels so good when I stop. Right? That's literally what cold exposure is. Like I put myself through it because it feels so good when I stop. But that's not all of it. Right? The reason why I'm dividing it and I'm sharing the Wim Hof method is because it's very much about a value system. It's about a value system of what mindset is, what a breath does, and then to go ahead and do action. Right? So it's not just, I'm putting myself through enormous pain, but then I'm not learning anything. I'm not growing. I'm not opening my mind into, when I follow this kind of mahalach where I spent months just doing mindset and breath, something in me really changes. And by the time I get into cold and I get through it, I'm blissed out. Why? Because I'm actually okay.
A little bit from my experience, which isn't much, I followed you, so to speak, or seen that you do it. And I've heard a little feedback from others, and I hear that it's phenomenal, that it helps. Personally, I have a little bit of trauma around the cold. I was never properly taught how to swim, and I have a very big fear of that. First time I went jet skiing a year ago, I didn't even want to, and I only did it wearing a life vest, but I did it. So for me, when I went to Ariyah Kudish's mikveh in Israel, or to a spa in Cancun, it was really intense and a huge fear of going into the mikveh. Ultimately, I did it because I wanted to do it. I wanted to go in that mikveh, so I just jumped in. But it was there like bare minimum to just dunk and get out and run away. So what I've tried in the past while is sometimes at home after taking a shower, when I'm done, as you said earlier, I slowly move it to where it's comfortable but cool, and then I move it colder and colder. I don't turn around. I've done it just on my back, but as long as it's just on my back, I've gotten to the point where I can turn it to where it's very cold, and after it's very cold, leave it there for about 2-3 minutes. And as long as I'm breathing and focusing on my breath,
yes,
back doesn't feel cold.
Yes. So, right. Yes. Very, very good.
Just try where it shoots on my.
Yes. Yeah. So the breath is not going to take away the initial shock, which is very important to know. It's not meant to go away, right? Just like life, right? And my initial fear is not meant to go away. When I try to fight that, I'm really doomed. But what it does do, that I can regulate my body and I can slowly bring my body to a calm state, and literally physically my body's blood vessels are wider and my blood flows in a way that it protects my inside of my body, that it's warm inside even though it's cold outside, which is pretty amazing. So a question is, how long would I want to, I'm looking at the chat, how long would I want to spend in a cold shower? So my day-to-day routine is 3-4 minutes, 2-3 minutes. If it's very cold, I'll just do a minute and be done with it. But I'm really waiting for the flip side, which means when my body's like, I'm okay. Like when I can pick my arms up and go like, I could do this. I got this. And my vibe changes and my mood changes. That's what I'm waiting for. Then I'm like, okay, depending on my day.
But you're waiting for that because of the...
I'm waiting for the flip. I'm waiting for it to switch. So is it 30 seconds? And they say it's about 30 seconds. The body warms up with the cold because the initial shock is not avoidable. I mean, it is a little if you go really, really slow, but at some point in the switching from warm to cold, there's a point where it's like, oh, I can do this. I got this. And then at some point it's like, damn, I can't. And that's when the practice comes in. Mindset, breath, and let it, trust it, practice it. And it's not in the first day, any other questions?
I resonate a lot to it. I know that it's only unfair because I had an experience that I actually went with friends to swim. And I know how to swim. So it's actually a mindset. It's something in the head, 100% in the head.
Yeah, which is interesting because floating on water is not one person could or one person not. It's the way the body is made. The body can float on water. Right? So the body can actually warm up in 30 degrees cold, or probably 20, 30 degrees cold. It's my mind that thinks that it can't that shuts me off from it, right? So swimming is a phenomenal example. It's a really, really phenomenal example, right? Because can I swim? Wait, can my body swim? Yes. Can I swim? No. So the first thing I need is to relax my body when I learn how to swim. Because otherwise I keep telling myself I can't swim. What is my body going to do? Everything the opposite of floating. So the same goes when I get into cold and I feel that burn. My first danger is my brain that says my body is in danger. Right? So if I'm like, my body's okay and I can breathe into my body in flotation, it would be, I can lay straight. I can move in the water. I can work through this and I can breathe deeply. The odds are I'm going to adjust to reality. And reality is my body can be in cold because we know it now because millions of people are doing it. And I also know that because I'm doing it, right? So it's this three part, which is the thought, the breath, to bring it into my body and make my body actually align with the thought that I'm choosing. And then the third part is actually exposing myself, which is very coaching. Like you coach your body into wellness. You coach your body into strength. You coach your body into increasing your dopamine in a natural way. So very important to breathe in a way that it's all the way to your belly. Very, very important to do that. And very important to know that your body can get through that initial fear response. And if you're lacking in the knowing, you can do, okay, this clip is breath. Okay, you can copy it and paste it by you. I'm putting it in the notes. And the second clip is, I'm going to put one link to Dr. Huberman's talk about cold exposure and the benefits.
Like dosage, right? Everything has a dose. Is there a dosage, a recommended dosage?
Yeah, I think the recommended dosage is in the shower is 3 minutes, and the ice bath is up to 15 minutes, but not necessary. Because it's just extra. Like longer than 3 minutes, 5 minutes, it's just like it doesn't keep upping the dopamine. Dopamine numbers are 200, 400, 600. Drugs is going to be 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. By the way, just to compare well-being and drugs will give us a dopamine rush that are in the numbers of thousands. Any natural dopamine increase is going to be in the hundreds, which explains why drugs is a much better choice than natural highs. But it's not sustainable.
Another question. You know how in spas they do, like, people have this regimen of going into the sauna. You go very hot, and then you go into...
Okay, so I'm going to tell you something about that there is an entire chachma of cold. There is also with hot, like extreme heat, which I know nothing about. I think Wim Hof knows nothing about it. Nah, he probably knows. But there is a chachma of heat, which has a sweat lodge and all these different methods, which involve breath work, mindset, telling the body it's okay. Very, very similar and the opposite. So it only explains that the two extremes must be a dopamine party. I can only imagine. I enjoy doing both because
shower, you're gonna go hot. Really hot.
So I'm gonna go hot and then cold because I enjoy it a lot, but I'm not gonna. I just don't go, back and forth because of time, because it's part of my routine. I do it every day. But yeah, it would be fun for the sake of fun. I would probably, I would probably do that. Very funny. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, how do I do a cold shower? It's very relevant for the winter. So I'm going to start with a cold shower. So the first day, you you want to get to a place where your body is in shock, but you can handle it, so you know you're okay. So start your shower with warm water, and then you switch to cooler, and you start getting the impact, and then you start breathing. I mean, you could do a round of breath work before you get into the shower. If this easy way doesn't work, then do a breathwork round before you get into the shower. And I posted the link. It's Wim Hof, 4 rounds of breathwork. You can do 2 of them or 3 of them. You don't have to do the full 4. If you can do it this way, the way I'm going to say it now, is fine. Plan B is that you do a full 2 or 3 or 4 rounds of breathwork before you start your shower, and then you start doing what I'm about to say. So the first step is a regular warm shower. Then you start moving it to the cold. When you start moving into the cold and you feel a hit, a shock response, that's where most people stop. That's when you take deep breaths to your belly. Not fighting with your brain, choosing to think, I'm okay. My body's got this. They can do it, I can do it. 1 million people could do it, I can do it. Right? Your timer is 30 seconds. You want to stay in the shock mode for about 30 seconds, and you'll notice that your body gets comfortable with it. One of the mindsets to create, we have a power of imagination. You can imagine that you're flying to the moon, and some people actually end up in the moon. No, like literally, they actually become astronauts, and it starts with a dream, right? Every professional athlete will tell you that they've been dreaming, not every, but there are a lot of athlete stories, success stories of athletes. They'll tell you they've envisioned it. So you can utilize vision as part of your thinking. You can think that there is a warm part in your belly, which is a fireplace or a campfire or whatever. And when you do these breaths, you go... When you exhale, you spread that warmth throughout your body. You can try it now. Take a breath into your belly. When you exhale, spread the warmth all the way to your fingers, to your toes, to your chest, right? So you can use imagination as part of the mindset. It's not only I'm okay. And you also imagine how your blood is flowing and your body is, your veins are expanding and your body is warming up. And after 30 seconds, your body will warm up. If it didn't warm up, generally you hit it with a shock so hard that your belief system of I'm not okay is stronger than the I am okay. So you start with less, which is why I don't do cold baths, ice baths with people that haven't done a cold shower. I mean, I think Wim Hof does. And there's a power in a group and the momentum. And again, what I said before, the adrenaline is very powerful, but with no adrenaline and no practice, the shock is stronger than the mindset. So you want to start slow and you want to aim for tiny, tiny little goals. You want to feel the shock, breathe okayness, and notice how your body is warming up. So you do that, and then you can either the same day move it a little colder, so you hit yourself with another little bit of a shock, right? And then you're done. You're good. And the next day you do it again. And this time you're like, I'm going to shock myself even more. That's the shower method. And then with time, you go all the way over to cold, which is now when it's cold outside, when it's 20, 30 degrees, it's absolutely brutal because it doesn't settle. It's not immersion in water. So it doesn't like stop. It's like keeps poking and poking and poking. And you could get, like at some point I was able to do freezing cold ice baths, but I wasn't able to do showers, which means I was like, I can't do this. Like my body's not, but all this talk, I can't do this in my body is because my body's not regulated. It's not like, a child that's kicking on the floor. It doesn't have that adult that's like, you're okay. Look at me, look into my eyes. You're okay. That's what we do with ourselves. Like, look here we go. Into the body, into the belly, feel that breath. You got this. At one point in my shower experience where I sucked at, I would turn on Wim Hof, right, on speaker. And I would like listen to him all the way in and let it go. And I would follow his guidance because I know he knows it works, right? So the first day you start with warm and then you move to a little cold and you want to get that shock and you want to maintain the shock for 30 seconds, move a little more to cold, get another shock, feel a little more of the cold. And then again, regulate your body, relax your nervous system, relax your brain, allow your breath to flow your blood properly so your body is warm. The place where some people are really cold is my back, and some people I know the back is really hard. So I'll do the front of my body, and to double shock myself, then I'll turn around and go over the same experience. At the end of doing this 2-3 times, like front body, back body, making it warmer, colder and colder, my dopamine levels are high. Johnny stopped knocking themselves in the head, and it does feel better. And sometimes I have shower awarenesses, because when I'm in that state where I'm just good and I stay even another minute longer, like by 2 minutes, I'll just have clarity and wisdom about ideas that I thought I'm stuck, which is very, very cool. It's not, I don't know if everyone works like that. It really depends how you think and how your processing system works. But when I'm in a relaxed state and my body knows my body is okay, my brain starts figuring things out. And I'll take 2-3 insights from a shower and actually use it. I'll be like, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I can call this person. I'll go out, I'll call them. I'll right away, it's not, I'm not going to wait 2 weeks to go down again and then figure it out from scratch. So that's showers. I'm going to go to explaining ice baths, and then I'll open up for questions, and we'll end with that. Ice baths. So we're assuming that by the time you do a full immersion bath, which means your whole body goes in either to a cold pool, you have already experienced that shock response, and you have managed to calm your body and regulate your body, right? We're assuming that. Okay, so I don't know how to, I can tell you the other ways to really, if you're very much dopamine, you like skydiving, then you can probably get in without any practice whatsoever into an ice bath, probably. But we're assuming that you've trained your body already how to breathe in cold. You've also felt how it feels when your body relaxes and the cold becomes manageable. Not only manageable, maybe you can, oh my God, I'm not actually freezing. I want to say something about freezing. Shivering is okay up to 3 minutes. Okay, it's actually healthy. It's a good release. It's like a shake in breath work, like trauma release. So it's known that breath work is safe. Shivering is okay and safe up to 3 minutes, and then like you don't want to go to the extreme opposite after shivering, but you want to start calming your body down. Probably nose breaths are going to help, and deep breathing is going to help, and drinking is going to help. Warming your body up is going to help. One more thing before I forget is that the body can stay. I get it from ice baths, not from showers, where my skin stays cold for a few hours. It's perfectly fine. Some people like it that way, so they feel that cold burn on the edge of their skin for the next 3-4 hours of their day. It goes away. It goes away after a certain amount of time. I stopped doing winter ice baths because it just wouldn't go away. It would stay freezing for like a day. So those two things are good to know. Shivering is totally fine. Let it, like, don't fight it. Let it, shiver it out, like shake, dance. Another thing that's really good is to preset the playlist, like turn it into a party, like Bluetooth speaker. Shake your body, dance along with the rhythm of the shake. It's really about saying I'm okay. That's the benefit of it. And then when you need to make a sales call and try again on something that failed, or make that your body also knows that it's okay. It's either I live my life from fear or I live my life from love, and I want to try and live the most I could from love. So the more I practice living from love when I'm scared, right, the more I'll know how to do it in other areas. I don't know how to make a bathtub cold without getting ice. I do know that you can buy a bath that has that sets the water to a specific temperature, and it costs, I think now it's $3,000-$4,000. It used to be $10,000. And you install it in your house, and some of them are portable, some of them are not. It has a filtration system, and it has a temperature setting that you can do that. And the other way, the cheap way to doing an ice bath without needing to buy ice, is to get a freezer, a chest top freezer, and then you plug it in an hour before your ice bath, or you test how long it takes to get it to 50. You want to start ice baths with 55 degrees. So here's the fun. With full immersion, you can actually somewhat control the temperature of the water. You can choose how much ice you're putting in, and if it's a freezer, you plug it in, you let it sit till the water cools to a specific temperature. You can totally YouTube this stuff, how people take a chest top and make it look a little more pleasing, not in a white, like they put wood around it and they design it nicely. I've never done it. I love the ice. So let's talk about temperatures for a minute. When you take a temperature thing and you dip it into water, you're going to feel the temperature of the water underneath the ice. So it's very different than on top of the ice. Top of the ice could be 30, 25 degrees. in the water is going to be 50-55. So when I tell people that my water is 55 degrees, they're like, yeah, big deal. For me, it's a big deal. For most people, 50-degree water is cold. A frozen lake will have one temperature on the top, which is why it's frozen temperature, but the water underneath is going to be 30, 40, 35, 33, 28, somewhere there in Fahrenheit. Because if it would be less, it would actually be fully frozen through and through. So a 0-degree ice bath is not the plan. It actually is freezing temperature, and the body can't warm up. Like this is physical, right? The body is actually physically warming up when you do the breaths. So there is a certain amount of temperature that it could warm up to, and then so the recommended temperature to get the water to with ice is about 55 degrees or 50, and you can lower it to 48. Now, if you measure, like either with a gun, they have these guns, which is not the right measure for testing water. You want to dip in a dipstick and know the temperature of the water. You're gonna get the water to around 45 to 55. Even 60 is gonna be really cold to get started. And the top is gonna be 30, 33, and it's very joyful. Like the top when it's ice, it's a really, really pleasant feeling and very relaxing. So with ice baths, it's very simple because it's full immersion. There's no hot and then cold. 4 full rounds of breath work. Okay, all the way in. Let it go. Highly recommend Wim Hof's Guided Breathwork. It's basically 30 breaths, then breath hold. You can look it up, Google it. I share this link where it's ready to guide, but you can look up his guidance on how to get your body ready, veins expanded, blood flowing to get in. Now, right before you step into the water, you stand next to the water. If you're at home, a bathtub, it won't be full immersion. I mean, I don't think it's big enough. Or if you have a big hot tub that you can fill with water and then with ice. In the summer, when the water temperature is in the mid 80s, the ocean and the water, sink water is about 85. You need about 20 bags of ice to bring it down to 50. So you work with that. Okay, 20 bags is the big bags. 20 bags of ice, about $40. It's not a cheap hobby. But you can start with less, and if it's a smaller tub, it'll obviously need less. But you're starting with 10, 12 bags, then you're upping it to 15 and then 18. It really depends on the weather outside. Now in the winter, you don't need more than just a few bags. Like as soon as you put the water in a bathtub, I haven't done a bathtub ice bath because it's too small for me. But if I would have a bigger bath, I would probably add 5 bags to the water, and that would be it. So I prepare my body fully before I get in. Then I get in. I'm like, I got it. And as soon as I get in, my whole body is like, well, I can't do this, which is really good to do it with a friend the first time, right? Because it's full immersion. Either you do it slowly, where you don't freeze the water so much, or you do it freezing and you have someone to keep eye contact, like you got this, breathe all the way to your belly and let it out. And then slowly when you exhale, you bring your awareness to your belly where it's warm, and you spread in your imagination the warmth throughout your body, and your body will warm up. After 30 seconds, your body will warm up. It's a very, very blissful experience. I put on music in the background, and your palms, your fingers, those stay cold very long, and specifically when it's full immersion. That is because the body wants to keep your body wants to keep the rest of your core temperature high. It wants to keep your heart and your chest and your core body temperature warmer. So it cuts off flow to the hands. So what happens if the hands don't have flow? They get freezing. So one of the things to do is to put the 2 palms on the side of your legs, and you lay in there and you like, same goes with the toes. When you exhale, you bring warmth into your hands, into your toes, into your whole body. And after 30 minutes, 30 seconds, it gets really good. I do 3 rounds or 2 sometimes, but I'll break up an ice bath into 3 rounds. So when you start ice baths, you do 1 minute, no more than 1 minute, 30 seconds to get through the phase, and then another 30 seconds to get through it. Get out, move your body. It's very important to get the blood rolling. So move. Wim Hof has a movement. Some people do jumping jacks. Other people do push-ups. So as long as you are in the water, that's at least how long you need to be outside of the water. So if you were 1 minute in the water, you need 1 minute of movement outside the water to move your body and warm it up, right? If your hands get red, you'll see that you start doing this with your hands and really relaxing your body again and bringing it back to a warm state. And then I do a second round and a third round. So in the beginning, I would do 1 minute, 3 minutes, and maybe 4, or 1 minute, 2 minutes, and 3 minutes, which together are 3, 5, 6 minutes. And with time, I would do 3 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and then 7 minutes. Right? I would break it up. Then we would do 4 minutes, 8 minutes, and whatever, 9 minutes even. The goal is with ice baths is to do a 50-minute ice bath. You don't need to do more. Some people do 30 minutes, but I haven't found like after 14, 15 minutes, it's like it's fine. But it's very important to know and to move your body when you get out of an ice bath, because it's full immersion. This skin sensation, you want to warm up your body from inside out. And if it's hot outside, it's really fun because it's like sweaty and it really warms up your body and it brings your body back to a normal and regulated state. And it does take a couple of hours till till sometimes a couple of hours the skin stays froze, like it says a little froze bite, but not really, but a little like it itches or tips or whatever.
Is there a significant difference between cold shower and cold bath, where the cold bath helps so much more? And then within the bath, does it make a huge difference when you're exposed to it for 9 minutes versus 3 minutes? You see a better...
So yeah, my ideal time is at least 7 minutes in an ice bath. Like not at once if I break it up. And if once, my minimum would be 5 minutes or 6 minutes. Like if I know I'm going to do 3, I can do 2 minutes or 3 minutes and then go again for 5. So my ideal time with an ice bath to feel like I've reached, I guess, that dopamine increase, the relaxation would be 5-7 minutes, my minimum. And you're asking if there's a benefit of it's very different. The ice bath ends up being a lot more of a bath. Like it's more relaxing because the full immersion, the stillness, it's really, really blissful. And those who do it, I guess, know what I'm talking about. A shower doesn't reach with me. I never experienced that complete, like the whole world stopped and my brain is quiet. I don't experience that in a shower. I feel a lot more tension in the shower. So it's almost like training to be tense. Okay. Like how am I tense? Okay. That's a shower. And an ice bath is just like, an experience.
I think it's a big difference also because the water is moving. When the water gets it's not moving around, you're able to relax your body. You're able to relax your chest and your own muscles, so it gets easier. Make sense?
Yeah.
This is also a big difference between the shower and the ice bath.
Right. It's that full immersion. There is a stillness that doesn't happen with a shower. And with a shower, there's a challenge that doesn't happen in an ice bath. So both have their pros and cons. It's definitely to experience more bliss as an ice bath. Yeah, mom is getting cold. It becomes very comfortable and comforting. Like at some point I would laugh. It feels like I'm in a warm bath. I never felt that with a shower. Like I've never been in a shower long enough to be like, oh, this is warm. In the shower, I'm like, oh my God, I can do this. Right? Cool. In an ice bath, I'm like, oh my God, it's warm. I never have it in the shower where it actually feels warm. That doesn't happen. It's like I'm capable of bearing the discomfort, which is consistently uncomfortable. In full immersion, I think in a bathtub that's small, it's not going to happen that way. But if I have a full immersion, which means I'm in the water all the way till my neck, I'm warming up my fingers with my thighs, I'm actually reaching the place where I'm like, wow, the world is interesting. Nothing is what it seems. It's warm in here. Never had that with a shower.
So you're saying because in the bath, our body relaxes more and you actually get to the place instead of in the shower, I'm okay, in the bath, I got this. You're saying that helps throughout the day to...
Yeah, either one is going to help throughout the day, by the way, because the dopamine levels go up on either one. So, both of them are going to be helpful throughout the day. And Huberman, if you follow that video, he talks about how long it lasts. It's very literal. Like they all have science research today that like it lasts for 3 to 4 hours. The dopamine levels are actually higher. It's a very physical. It's literally medication. It's not Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me. I have a bunch of things going on. I'm going to send out a email tomorrow with a recording to this. I'm also going to send out an invite tomorrow to a workshop that I have next week, Tuesday. And I'm working on something, a weekend retreat. So I'm going to be sharing with you stuff. You can always unsubscribe yourself. Never be pressured, or like if this is good for you, it's good. You can always resubscribe when you feel like it. You can always message me privately on WhatsApp, and I'm going to try to be as helpful as I could without formally coaching. I enjoy this stuff and I like spending my time doing what I enjoy. So thank you so much for being here. I shared with you 2 resources that I like the most from the stuff I found. One is the Wim Hof Breathwork, and you can go find a bunch of other clips around that. And the other one is Dr. Huberman. Fine. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Good to meet you. Yes. Wonderful. Take care. Good night. Bye.